changes. The run-up to the 2015 elections, which should ideally now be regarded as a routine exercise necessary for the continuation of our democratic process, is being turned into a battleground by politicians from all sides. Ideally, the political class should set standards commensurate with democratic values of tolerance, respect for opposing views, and promotion of the right of individuals to make free choices about how and who governs them. Yet the actions of the political class represented in their use of provocative speech, their failure to rein in their supporters when they engage in violence, and utter disregard for the consequences of their actions, as well as the seeming desperation to win at all costs, have introduced a high level of tension in the polity. No group has a monopoly when it comes to displays of behavior that can only be regarded as irresponsible. Examples abound in all parties and across all the states. While the country grapples with a raging insurgency, serial insecurities across the country, and a teeming, restless youth population that is testing our national security, politicians, by their recent conduct, are adding anxiety onto an already fragile situation. When youth take up arms against the opponent of their political choice, they are following the examples of their leaders who use the language of hate and words as weapons to denigrate and castigate those on a different political platform from them. By opening the door for them to use violence as a means of expression, this must stop. Ladies and gentlemen, this National Workshop on Violence-Free Elections must mean something. Everyone here must pledge to rein in the voices of hate, call their supporters to order, behave in a manner that is compatible with our democratic ideals, and allow each one of us to exercise our rights as citizens to cast a free vote for the person or party that we support. We must choose to be on the right side of history. All of us here today will have played some part by our action in the outcome of the 2015 polls. It is how we choose to behave, what we tell others to do on our behalf, or how we stop some from behaving in antisocial ways that will determine how peaceful the outcome of this election will be. We have seen the outcome of the world that have been marred by violence. Some countries descended into anarchy, and others are yet to stabilize. What is certain is that when such happens, a politician who seeks power needs stability and people to govern. If the country is made unstable, he can.
Nigeria has abiding national interests, which must be protected at all times by all the candidates, even in the heat of political campaigns.
The United Nations is also expected to speak at today's occasion, and that is when he will also be talking more about this 2015 elections, the sensitization workshop, what it entails, and what are his own expectations, particularly from the presidential candidates, the political parties. One good thing about today's occasion is the obvious fact that at least 11 political candidates out of 14 are here, and the two major political candidates, the presidential candidates, General Muhammadu Buhari of All Progressive Congress, and also the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, President Goodluck Jonathan, are also seated here at today's occasion. That invariably means that they are fully committed to this Abuja Accord, which will no doubt foster more unity, national stability, and also make campaigns to be more issue-based, where their manifestos, their programs, and what they really have as plans for the nation and the people be extracted.
To instill fear and intimidate a whole population. They cannot succeed. We must election integrity.
They are eventually result in violence in elections, to the problem of lack of internal party. And they can mobilize. If the process is free and fair, you cannot predict and determine the outcome, because it is the choice of voters on election day. So this, I think, is a very, very important thing that we must recognize. The sixth tenet I want to raise is also the issue relating to willingness to accept outcomes. It is not a do or die affair. There are rules and regulations about disputing outcomes and about contesting outcomes. If those rules and regulations are not accepted and are not followed, then obviously we create the preconditions for violence and conflicts related to the outcomes. And the seventh factor, and I think all the previous contributors have mentioned it, there is absolute need for moderation by political parties, candidates, when it comes to electioneering.
I'll start with insecurity. Lives will be lost. Will be lost. Life will be totally truncated because people will not continue where they stopped eventually. For want of time, cycle of violence. There will be, because people want to wreak vengeance. And the third one is political instability. It will impact on development. All efforts made will be wasted. I heard on the news, was it yesterday, that the federal government had made available 3 billion naira to pay victims of violence in Kaduna. That money could have been plowed into education, health, or other things. That's how opportunities are lost. Valuable assets are lost. Now, there is a contradiction in what we're doing in Nigeria. We go all out to aid countries, to talk to countries, to imbibe democracy and the processes. We went to Liberia and died. Sierra Leone, we died. All resources were wasted just to make sure we get them online. But here we are. We cannot do it. So it is do as I say, but don't do as I do. It's unfortunate. I want to conclude by saying that there are 3 reasons or imperatives why Nigeria must get it right this time. The first one is that our people are tired. As I speak, people are already relocating. Some people did it in Christmas. People are doing it now. They are seeking safe havens because as far as they're concerned, they are virtually sure there will be violence. And why? Because the politicians, the platforms, don't speak the language that will encourage people to stay and vote. And what does that mean? People will be defranchised. Even if at the end of it, there are results, people have been defranchised. People's life have been truncated. Their well-being has been disrupted. The second one, Nigeria's electoral process is no more a Nigerian affair. I heard the former Secretary General talk about the impact the outcome of our elections will be on Africa. I say this time around, it's not a Nigerian affair because the world is interested. And I think precedents have been set regarding the outcomes when there are election violence. And thirdly, in conclusion, I want to appeal to politicians. and seriously too. The impact of what we do in Nigeria does not. The impact is on all